If you have ongoing exposure to controlling people, it's a virtual certainty that you're going to experience blurry boundaries, which is why I've created the extensive online course called This Is Me, Establishing Boundaries with the Controllers in Your Life. There's a link below that will give you all of the details, and I hope that you would find it therapeutic. One of the most common things you tend to hear from people like me who have worked with narcissistic individuals for a long time is, in a high percentage of cases, these individuals tend not to change. They can be so entrenched in their way of living and thinking and acting that they think, I don't need anybody's help. I have it all figured out. Their need to be in control, their sense of alternate reality, which is huge, their need for dominance and superiority, their inability to receive input paralyzes them to the extent that they just remain stuck and they continue to push all of their dysfunction onto other individuals. And so people will ask, well, is it ever possible for these people to change? And the answer is yes, it is. It's not as likely as I wish it would be, but from time to time, people can get to the point of saying, this whole pattern of life that I'm in is not working. What are my alternatives? Now, to that effect, I want to offer a 7-part plan that would be a part of that change process that a person of a narcissistic variety can go into and see if this is something that you would be able to embrace. First, when we talk about adjusting from narcissism or away from narcissism, I would say take a hard look at the illogic of controlling one another. Narcissists have been exposed to a pattern of thinking that I refer to as imperative thinking. You've probably heard me refer to that in other videos. When we say that something's imperative, it's have to, must, can't, should, supposed to, got to. Everything is already pre-planned and figured out. And narcissists were on the receiving end of all these control messages in their earlier years, and in many ways they still are. But then they've decided, well, in order to get on top of things, I have to be the one that's in control, and so they are on the giving end of it. Short term, what happens when one person attempts to control another person? Now, maybe you can get some conformity, at least for a while. Long term, what happens when one person continues to try to control another? Well, you get a lot of dysregulated emotion, whether it's anxiety or resentment or anger or tension or defensiveness or fear. When you attempt to control another individual, you're running counter to the way that human nature is set up. Each person needs to have the freedom to choose who he or she will be. Controlling individuals miss that one from the get-go. And so part of, step number one in terms of getting away from narcissism is to drop the illusion that you can be in control, allow other individuals the freedom to be what they are, just as you have the freedom to be what you are, and then it sets up choices, and that's a good thing, and it forces hopefully some true insightful thinking. Now, step number two in terms of getting away from narcissism is confront your fears. Narcissists are fear-based. Now, a lot of them will be very reluctant to say, oh yeah, I have a lot of fear on the inside of me. The best way to determine if a person is driven by fear is to watch how defensive they are. If you're in that narcissistic pattern, it's a virtual guarantee that you have high defenses. If someone comes along and says, I didn't like the way you handled this, or I think we need to rethink that, it's very common for you to just pull back and say, wait a minute, you can't talk to me that way. And you go into the rationalization mode, or you go into the reversal mode. Why do you need to do that? Drop the defenses. Narcissists live behind a false self thinking, I want everybody to think of me in ideal terms. Well, what if they don't? Or what if when they don't? Do you have to defend yourself so much? Because all it does is it postures you to get into very disruptive kinds of interactions with other individuals. Stop defending yourself. It's okay to explain yourself once here and there, but even then, there's no guarantee the other person is going to receive what you have to say. But pull way back on your defenses and remain open to what individuals have to say about you. Which then leads to a third step, and that is stop acting as if relationships are a competition. They're not. Relationships are hopefully a means of coming together in a coordinated kind of way and a mutually beneficial kind of way. Relationships are not about one-upping each other. We each bring different skills or tendencies or backstories and ethnicities and cultural influences, life experiences. We each bring different opinions. And that's part of the beauty of life. There's so much variety built in. Make room for that rather than applying black and white thinking, saying, okay, you have to think this way and you're a winner. You have to think this way or you're a loser. And narcissists turn relationships into a power grab. Who's up, who's down, whose opinion's best, who's not best. Stay open to it and drop this whole competitive stuff. This is not about win versus lose. Now, a fourth step, and this is huge, and that is think long and hard about the nature of love. I want you to let that one soak in. I've defined elsewhere that narcissism, or I've said elsewhere that narcissism can be defined as the absence of love. Love is not a sentiment. Now, narcissists want to be admired, and they like infatuated feelings. They like people just coming at them and swooning over them, but that's not what I'm talking about here. Do you understand what it means to love? Love is an action word, it's an attitudinal approach toward life. It means that you have a sense of patience. It means that you prioritize kindness and encouragement. You're the kind of person that wants the best for other individuals, and especially if things are going difficult, it's like, good, I get to inject my sense of decency in other individuals. If you want to get beyond narcissism, you want to embrace the whole notion of what love is and completely rethink how that would prompt you to engage with other individuals. A fifth adjustment as getting away from narcissism is you're going to need to restructure your approach toward anger. Let's keep in mind that there are moments when anger is necessary and it's legitimate. It's reasonable. Okay, I can understand that you would feel frustrated or tense or agitated. The question is, how do you handle yourself? And it's in your moments of anger that you show the depth or not of your maturity. Healthy individuals, when they're angry, they still maintain a sense of decency. They still maintain a sense of regard toward that other person, and so they can speak into their anger, we call it assertiveness, in such a way where you don't have to then go back and put together the pieces of the train wreck that you created. You can speak and say, here are concerns that I have, these are my boundaries, these are my stipulations, these are the things that I need you to know, but then it's a two-way street. You allow that other person to have their anger too, and you live and you learn about one another. Anger doesn't need to be a reason for you to just become a bully and be a rageaholic or hold on to contempt and grudges and make people pay for disagreeing with you. A sixth step in overcoming narcissism is make amends with the people that you've wronged. Inevitably, if you've had this strong narcissistic bent, you've offended many individuals, you're going to need to go to as many as you possibly can and say, I'm sorry. Or I've done these things and now I see that it's come at a great price. Name it. Say what you've done. Say what you wish to do as a different alternative, and talk with individuals about how you want to be a different person and how you understand as best you can where they're coming from. And you solicit, tell me what your experience has been with me, because I'd like to get feedback from you. I want to learn and grow. I want to make amends. Now, this requires a great deal of humility. It means that you lay down that need to be superior. But that's okay, because you're not superior anyway. You're just you and they're them. Make amends and do what's possible to reconstruct if it can be done. And then number 7, the seventh step, and that is never assume that you have crossed the finish line. you're a work in progress. You are going to slip. You are going to have some of that selfishness and that need for control that's going to creep back in. And so for you to say, hey, I've got this whole thing figured out and I'm the poster child now for the healthy person. Well, none of us is, but some get closer to it than others. Always be in a place that says, I want to continue to grow and learn. Keep yourself accountable. Typically, counseling can be a great benefit when you've been in this pattern for a long time, because you could certainly benefit from somebody that can help you stay sharp and on target with what you're trying to do. Just know you'll never be a completely finished product, but you're constantly in process. Now, one final thought, and that is the number one ingredient that would be necessary for a narcissist to make these 7 adjustments I'm talking about is pain. When a narcissist has enough pain, and by that I mean they look inside themselves and they say, I'm hurting. This is not working. This is not going over well. Then that can become a good motivator for change. I want to find a way of life that doesn't harm me and doesn't harm other individuals. I want to be somebody that brings joy and goodness and decency. Now, it may not always work out the way that I want, but I'm tired of making people hurt. So you have a 7-step program here. Obviously, I could give a lot more, but you can read a whole lot into what I'm saying here. You know that at the end of many of my videos, I talk about how I want you to have your sense of peace. I truly do. Peace happens when you decide that the many disruptions that you've participated in are no longer something that you want to contribute to. Embrace love and all that is implied with it, and focus on some of the things that I'm talking about here. And I'm hoping, in fact, that you can get beyond narcissism. As I've said, a lot of people don't. I'm hoping you can be the person that says, well, I'm committed to it between now and the end of my life. And I do hope that videos like this will give you some good food for thought. If you've not already done so, I would encourage you to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell that goes with it. Now, I mentioned counseling. If there's a need that you would have for therapy, we have a sponsor with a link below that could take you to some online therapy if that's something you would prefer. And I strongly encourage that if you're in this kind of adjustment phase that you take advantage of that. And so if that's something that you feel like you could use, then go to the link, and there's a whole team of counselors that you can select from. In addition, we have my courses. My Free to Be, which is about establishing boundaries. This is me, about finding yourself despite the controllers in your life. We have my books and other resources below. That's what I'm here for. Just know that I so appreciate it when I get to be a part of your journey with you, and I hope it's a journey towards things that are right and healthy and good. And sure enough, as we close, please know that I do indeed want you to have peace.